What's that up in the sky? Spider-Man, Spider-Man. Gotta talk about Spider-Man. 'Cause we can't wait to do it. We gotta do it right now. Look out. Jeff's gonna talk Spider-Man. You know, I think I've been doing a lot of third person talking lately, and I don't know why. I don't know where it's coming from. I'm addressing it. I'm calling it out. It doesn't come from an egotistical place. I don't know why I do that. Um, I am so excited to introduce my guest who's going to be talking Spider Man with me. That's right. We're just launching right into this. I'm going to bring in my guest right now. His name is Natedog. Welcome to Natedog. Hi, Natedog.
Hi.
Natedog and I
Yes,
went
and
to school
to
together.
yes, and to address Jeff's third person, he's like that guy Elaine dated once on Seinfeld, who always talked about the same person, and it's not an egotistical thing. It's just being Jeff.
Uh oh. You are coming in. You are super robotic when you talk.
I'm sorry. I
That's okay. Nate, try. Do you have a working cell phone by any chance?
I do. You
Try.
want me to?
Yeah, I'm gonna boot you out. Try coming back on via your cell phone. See what that does. I'll
All right.
intro us in. Okay, I'm gonna kick you off real quick. All right, Nate's gonna come back. In the meantime, so let me tell you what I did today at the behest of Nate Dogg. Nate Dogg texts me, right? He's like, "Have you seen it yet? You got to see it. Stay off the internet until you see it. You know, your standard fare." And I was just like, man, I don't want to have to deal with staying off the internet because I haven't seen a movie. But people fly so fast and loose with the spoilers the way we're going to do on the show. So if you have not seen Spider Man No Way Home, the brand new, newest Spider Man film, do not watch this stream because we are going to spoil the shit out of this movie. Like, there is no holding back, okay? So if you haven't seen it, come back, come and watch this after, when we get back. Okay? When you get back from seeing it. Come and watch it. That's important. So, um yeah. What else can I tell you while we wait for Nate Dogg? There he is. There's the Nate Dogg. Let's see him.
How
Hey,
do I sound?
oh, amazing. So much better. So much better. Can you do me one last favor? Tilt your phone horizontally if you can. There you.
All
Oh
right.
my God! Look at this guy. Look at this guy. All right, we're gonna restart the show right now because Nate Dogg is here.
All right. Headphone wire issues.
That's okay, but you sound
All
much
right.
better. You don't sound like a
How do I
freaking.
sound?
You sound much better. Good. Okay.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah.
All right, we're starting the show right now. Spider Man,
Okay.
Spider Man. Time for us to talk about Spider Man. Because we gotta talk about Spider Man. That's what we're doing. We're talking Spider Man. Look out. It's time to talk about Spider Man. Okay. So you contacted me and you were like, yo, you gotta watch Spider Man immediately. Like, do it now.
Yeah. And I will
For
tell
good
you why I
reason.
did that
For good
because
reason. Yeah.
I'll tell you a story to explain why I did that. I remember when we saw Endgame together.
Yeah.
It was like the day after your second kid was born, and you were explaining to me that you really needed to see that movie as soon as possible in order to be able to safely graze the internet without being spoiled.
Right.
And we all know how that movie ended, with
Right.
the brave, noble sacrifices of lovable characters like, Black Widow and, of course, Tony Stark.
Right.
So this movie was kind of like the first Avengers level event we've had on screen since then. And I'm like, yeah,
Yes.
Jeff's going to need to see this as soon as possible.
Yes. I mean, here's the thing. These are really this segues right into my opening remarks here. We live in a post Endgame world. How do you top a movie? How do you top a movie that basically is predicated on 22 other movies before it and flawlessly executes like a perfect synergy of those 22 films into, a final, period on the end of a very, very, very long run-on sentence. And, they just, I mean, they did. Kevin and, the whole team, Kevin Feige and the whole team, they did it. They really did it. What's up, Dr. Derpy? Welcome to the show. They managed to do it. And then I'm watching this, I'm going, holy crap. Like, this is the only way that you can, possibly top Endgame. And I don't even think you could really top Endgame. I think Endgame, it's like our senses have been so brutalized by Endgame that it's like, this is the only thing you could do, because this is brand new ground, comic book ground that they're breaking open, Oh, perfect. Amy just finished watching it.
Well, we are your emotional
movie.
Support friends to help you process this movie.
Yes. It's definitely leaves you with a little bit of a hangover. It's a little sad. I know that you must be angry because I actually thought of you while watching this, because I immediately thought of No Extra Day.
Of One More Day, yes.
One More Day.
So let me talk about my sort of love-hate relationship with
Go ahead.
With comic book writing.
Go ahead.
Way back in 2006, Marvel did their Civil War event. This was the Civil War story. For those of you who don't know, this was the Civil War story that inspired the Civil War movie.
Right.
But it's not a perfect one-to-one interpretation. You see, in this storyline, the government wants all superheroes to register and work for them, whether they're Avengers or not.
Mm-hmm.
And Peter Parker takes the most unsuspecting turn you would expect him to take. He decides he's going to not just register, but he's going to hold a press conference that Tony Stark throws for him. He's going to attend this press conference as Spider-Man and take off his mask and identify himself to the world.
He's going to be a poster boy. He's the poster boy for what is known as the Initiative.
Exactly.
Initiative.
He becomes the poster boy. Now, he eventually becomes very disenchanted with this movement he's supporting because, among other reasons, he discovers that those who stand against the Initiative are just being jailed without any charges or trial. So he switches sides. And
you have that's where the whole Captain America is on one side and Iron Man's on the other side, and this is also the birth of the Iron Spider suit comes from Civil War.
Exactly, but more than that, at this point he has left the Avengers. He has forfeit any protection that Tony Stark and the Avengers could afford his family, his wife Mary Jane, and his Aunt May, and eventually, Peter Parker's personal story arc ends with an assassination attempt orchestrated by the Kingpin. Right. And the bullet, Peter dodges the bullet, but it hits Aunt May. And in the ensuing story after that, Back in Black was some of my favorite writing. It really explored Peter's dark side in a way that I feel Sam Raimi failed.
Right over there. Yeah.
I feel Sam Raimi failed to really put anything close to that on screen in Spider-Man 3, but that's neither here nor there.
Right.
But then you get to One More Day, and at this point, Peter has taken his revenge against the Kingpin. He has basically sent a message to all of his enemies that if anybody makes another move on his family, he's going to kill them. And if Aunt May dies, he's going to come back to that prison and kill the Kingpin right then and there.
Right.
Then you get to One More Day, which is him desperately trying everything that he can to prevent Aunt May from dying. Now,
yeah, it's really stupid.
Yeah. Now, for those of you who don't, if any of you are living under a rock and you don't know Peter Parker's mantra, it's this: with great power comes great responsibility. Another way to translate that is our actions have consequences. And I felt as a reader, as I was reading this storyline, I just thought, let her die. Just let her die. This is the perfect way to make him pay for the dumbest mistake that Peter Parker could ever make. I know it's comic books. I know that nobody stays dead forever, and I'm totally okay with her being resurrected somehow in a few years. But for now, let her die. Let this sting, and let this sting stay with him for a while.
So here's the thing, and yes, that's like the source material that Nate is coming at this from the source material angle. But Nate once said to me probably the greatest thing about Spider-Man, like the core character of Spider-Man. Nate, why don't you actually say it? Do you remember what you said to me?
You remember it better, but basically it was what Peter Parker wants and what Spider-Man needs to do are two polar opposites of each other. And in every good adaptation of the character, you see that conflict.
Yeah, the core of the character. Yeah, that blew my mind when Nate said that to me one day. Basically, what Peter Parker wants and what Spider-Man want are never the same thing. They are always in conflict with each other. And what makes Peter Parker the hero that he is that he always chooses what Spider-Man wants or what Spider-Man's duty should be over what he wants as Peter Parker. And they did such a good job of exploring this core theme of the character in this home trilogy, we'll call it the Homecoming trilogy.
Yes.
They did such a good job just sort of like exploring this theme, and this third film is like the ultimate surmisation. They use the one more day storyline that I hate so much as well. It irks me. It didn't make me stop reading Spider-Man at that point, but it does irk me. Especially when I look at it from, watching the cinematic adaptation of it. Yeah. I'm just kind of like, this is
and
so
for people who don't know, we should say that it's because of the way that the One More Day storyline ended. The whole point of the final moments of that storyline have Peter Parker making a deal with Mephisto. He's like a Satan,
like the devil.
Lucifer type character.
Yeah, he's a demon.
To save Aunt May, but at the cost of his marriage to Mary Jane. Like, it would be just stupid. Erased from existence.
Yeah.
And that was literally the whole point of that story arc. It was to find a way to break up Peter Parker and Mary Jane.
Although I will say they do a much better job. I mean, they made his choice make a lot more sense in this movie.
Yeah.
Like
in this movie, his choice
works.
Makes much more sense because he can't let his stupid choices screw up the entire plane of existence.
Yeah. So it's like, it actually, and then like I said, he starts off the movie very self-seeking in terms of just wanting him and his girlfriend and his buddy to be at MIT together, and it ends with him basically sacrificing what he wants for the good of the world, for the good of his friends. He sees that his friends, we're already jumping to the end of the movie, but like he sees his friends are happy and content now that they don't remember all the Spider-Man stuff, and he's just content to just sort of, and basically the trilogy, this trilogy of films ends up becoming Spider-Man's origin story, really, in the MCU. They just announced they're going to be doing a new trilogy, and it makes sense because we can go into it.
Yeah. Well, we'll see where it goes from here, but we don't know who that Spider-Man will be.
No, it's Tom Holland. It's been confirmed. It's Tom Holland for 3 more movies.
Have you seen that? Have you seen him say that though? Because he's not sure what his future looks like with the MCU.
This was announced 2 weeks ago that he is like hands down. He's there for a whole nother trilogy. And then I guess they would pass it down to Miles Morales, who's the ultimate Spider-Man, at some point. But in addition to doing no One More Day, in addition to doing like multiverse stuff, they kind of did this adaptation of Into the Spider-Verse live action because they saw that it works so well. And here's the thing. Here's what Spider-Man does. Here's what Spider-Man No Way Home does so well, like so brilliantly. Besides the fact that it's like, again, going back to our initial question, how the hell do you how do you up the ante after Avengers Infinity War and Avengers Endgame? You friggin' melt people's minds and sort of do a one up on DC, who's like, oh, we're bringing back Michael Keaton as Batman and the Flash. They're like, oh, that's cute. And bringing us every incarnation live action of Peter.
Oh, hold on. Stop.
Okay, sorry.
We should absolutely advise anybody watching this who intends to go out and buy a ticket.
I already told them. I said,
okay.
It's everybody knows this is spoilers.
Okay,
it's
but we really think that the biggest spoilers of all, stuff that was not even hinted at in the trailer, we're getting into right now.
Yes. Basically, it's like, hey, let's just like blow Endgame and DC and everybody out of the water by like incorporating every previous version of Spider-Man Peter Parker as multiverse versions. And on top of it, you know, everybody's not happy with how either one of those franchises ended. Franchise. What would you call them? The storylines. Nobody was happy with The Amazing Spider-Man. Nobody was happy with Spider-Man 3, with Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3. And now here's an opportunity to not only tie up the final film in the Homecoming trilogy, but we're going to put a bow on Amazing Spider-Man, and we're going to put a bow on Sam Raimi's Spider-Man trilogy. We are going to wrap up everything that has to do with Spider-Man is wrapped up perfectly. Like in the most meaningful, cathartic way, right down to, and this is the part, was there any part that brought tears to your eyes or made you emotional? There was one part that did it for me.
There were quite a few. Okay. I think just right out the bat, you know, the returns of, you know, Norman Osborn, Doc Ock.
Okay.
You know, I loved the first two Spider-Man movies. I don't think they're perfect, but I do think the villain portrayals
Spider-Man 2 is so good.
Were very spot on.
Yeah, they're great.
You have that. The second thing was also just the returns of Andrew Garfield.
Oh my God.
Because he was my favorite Spider-Man actor, and if he had better
scripts, if
he had better scripts, he could probably have made his way into the MCU as
Best
the mainline
Peter Parker,
Spider-Man.
dude. He looks like Peter Parker to me. Like he is the live action version of Peter Parker. It was such a perfect casting.
And I definitely feel like they used the Ultimate Spider-Man universe as his frame of reference for his character, which is my favorite incarnation of Peter Parker.
I read a lot of Ultimate Spider-Man, all the way up to trade paperback 22 or 23. So yeah.
That was also the Spider-Man universe that birthed Miles Morales.
Right. They eventually kill off Peter Parker, and Miles Morales becomes the new one.
As a side note, I stopped reading after that because I felt like I lost my best friend, and I needed time to actually process that before I could even look at Miles Morales. That's how memorable of a character that was.
You know what happened? I sort of lost track, and then I heard that they killed off Peter Parker, and I decided to stop reading because Peter Parker is Spider-Man to me. I have no problem with Miles Morales, but there's just some things that are so etched in stone. And Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. I know we've had different versions, and I know they're valid, but there's just something about like redoing the origin from the beginning and like having so much vested and only to have it knocked off. I don't know. It just
I feel like they could have introduced Miles without killing Peter, but that's neither here nor there. But the other two emotional moments for me, and not including the ending, was of course the much well-deserved return of Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, that was cool. That was so that blew my fucking mind to see the three of them together.
I cannot stress this enough. I remember I was watching a Twitch stream with run by some friends of mine, and they took a break from the game that they were playing to live watch the final Spider-Man Far From Home trailer.
Yeah.
And at that point, they confirmed all five villains,
Yeah.
and they were speculating as to whether or not, you know, Maguire and Garfield were going to be in it. And my thinking was, okay, we're this close to the release date, and if they're not confirming that Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are in this movie, they're not in this movie. Because this is the kind of thing you would want people to know to get people to buy tickets. You know,
they wanted.
I was thinking purely from a business standpoint. So the surprise was glorious. I also ate a lot of crow last night.
Right, because you really didn't think it was going to happen.
I really genuinely believe, because I was thinking purely from a business point, from a business.
Garfield actually said on Twitter, he's like, guys, I just want to let you know, I'm not in the new Spider-Man film.
Exactly.
Like, straight up lied.
They literally had these people lying to the public, you know, saying to the public, no, it's not happening. So, yeah, it was really...
And you can't blame them. You can't friggin' blame them either. Like, you can't even be mad about it because...
I can't be mad about it. I'm just impressed. I'm just impressed that they were able to keep this secret of this movie so closely guarded. Yes, Dr. Derpy, that's exactly what was happening in my theater.
We were all cheering and clapping Dr. Derpy. It was so radical. It was so radical. I don't know if Amy is still watching. Amy, what was the reaction in your theater when you saw it? Were people clapping and cheering? I was bereft. For me, I loved The Amazing Spider-Man. I loved Emma Stone. I loved Emma Stone as Gwen Stacy, and I loved her and her relationship with Peter Parker and the chemistry that they had. And I was shipping that hard. And let me tell you, when they recreated a very, very famous, iconic storyline when Gwen Stacy famously dies in Spider-Man lore. But the
Spider-Man
thing
121.
Right, and she dies at the hands of the Goblin. But what happens is she's falling, and just like in Amazing Spider-Man 2, she's falling, and Peter Parker's not sure. She basically, Peter Parker catches her with his web and saves her from the impact.
Splat.
Right, but in the process, the whiplash. He spends years afterwards doing the math in his head, trying to like come to a proper conclusion what killed Gwen Stacy, and it's knowing the ultimate truth, I think, that it was his web slinging that caused a whiplash in her body and ultimately killed her. And
and they recreated that in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
And they do it sensationally, but we never got part 3. And
we never got part 3. For a very stupid reason. I think Andrew Garfield just didn't show up at some event for investors, and Sony just fired him on the spot.
Is that really what happened?
That is what I have heard happened.
I thought it was Kevin Feige who was like, "Look,
no. Like at this point, because remember, it's 2014. Mm-hmm. Amazing Spider-Man 2 made hundreds of millions of dollars. Sony is moving full ahead with their Sinister Six spinoff.
Yeah, they wanted to, right. That was what was at the end of Spider-Man 2. They wanted.
Yeah, the end of Spider-Man 2 teases a sinister, the rise of the Sinister Six.
Right.
But we never got that because Andrew Garfield was a no-show at this event, and Sony very stupidly, without a plan to go forward, fired him. After that.
I was so frustrated. I was like, you're not going to give us the third film. You're just going to let her die like that, and that's just it? Like, what the hell?
And to give you another guess how dumb Sony has been, remember, you know why Tobey Maguire always makes jokes on screen as Peter Parker about his back?
Right, because because he hurt his back.
No. It's not just that he hurt his back. He argued that doing a lot of the physical acting in Spider-Man 1 hurt his back, and he was holding out for more money for Spider-Man 2, which I think he deserved. Yeah. But he didn't do it in a well enough way. He argued that his back was hurting, and for a short time, Tobey Maguire was actually recast with Jake Gyllenhaal.
That would have been bizarre, man.
That would have been bizarre. But
I really don't like
would have
that stuff.
killed Spider-Man 2. I really think if your leading actor was just unceremoniously fired like that.
Yeah, it wouldn't have worked. But here's the thing. So after that happens with Andrew Garfield, to have him not only in this movie but have a chance, but save AJ and not AJ,
MJ. Yeah,
MJ.
He saves her.
MJ.
He saves her when MCU Peter can't.
Right, and what's amazing about it though is he does it in a different way, as if this was so subtle, like that he must have rehearsed it in his mind 100,000 times.
Yeah,
like what did I do wrong that caused her to die? And so he catches her and then throws the web instead of just throwing the web and letting her bounce and whiplash. So he essentially alters the tactic and saves MJ from the same fate. And for me, it was like a catharsis and completion of his character arc. Everybody got that, even Tobey Maguire, you know?
Like, I will point, like, one thing I do want to point out here is that the characters that are brought to this universe because of the spell that Peter and Doctor Strange mess up, they are not brought. They are brought over here from different points in their timelines as well, because Norman Osborn dies at the end of Spider-Man 1.
Right.
So that's the only way that that's the only plausible way. So that means that the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man that we got is one that probably had years, it's been 7 years since Amazing Spider-Man 2. I'm going to say that he probably spent those 7 years thinking about how he could have saved what happened and how he could have saved Gwen and what he would do if he had a second chance.
And Tobey Maguire ends up with his MJ in the future, and they have a family and whatnot. It was just, and I got to tell you, the just the dialogue, the scenes, everything was so well written. The levity between the three Peter Parkers, it was just, it was so fun. It was so perfect. These films, and I got to tell you, all Star Wars trilogies should look like the Spider-Man home trilogy. All superhero films should take a note from the precedent that has now been set by No Way Home. And what is that? It's the thing that comic books do all the time. They self-reference a rich history and do all sorts of in continuity throwbacks. And we got that with the MCU, obviously, to a great degree. But this movie, as you point out, it does all that. It celebrates 20 years of Spider-Man films. That is the crazy thing. It does.
Next year will mark 20 years of Spider-Man on the silver screen.
Oh my God. And they did it. They brought all of them back. They tied up all the storylines. I don't think anybody, after coming out of No Way Home, there's nobody that feels bad about The Amazing Spider-Man anymore. There's nobody that feels bad about Spider-Man 3 anymore. Everything was set right. That's what, so it's this film took such opportunities to sort of wrap everything up in such a perfect bow and leave it open for the future. It just was, what a masterstroke.
Yeah, because what this movie does right, and it's something that I feel that every Spider-Man movie overlooks, between Spider-Man and Amazing Spider-Man. This movie acknowledges that those villains were victims of bad things that happened to them.
Here's where we're going to disagree. Okay, go ahead. Finish your statement, and then I have
because because with the exception of Norman Osborn, everyone else got caught up in something,
right?
That they weren't, Doc Octopus had an experiment go wrong, and it messed him up. But he was trying to do good in the world with that experiment. The Sandman just, it was just a victim of a freak accident. You can say the same about also Electro.
Yeah.
just falling into just accidents and or just bad, or just doing good things or just trying to do good only to have it turn out badly. So in that sense,
Yeah.
they're kind of victims of their own, of their own misfortune.
This was the worst part of the movie for me. It was for me, it was almost like it almost was groan inducing. And here's what No Way Home has taught me. It has taught me that you can have a seriously groan inducing plot point that just totally, for me, again, felt so ham-fisted and unnecessary and like just a waste of time to an extent, that you could do so much cool shit and have a really dumb plot point like that, and the cool shit overrides the dumb plot point and still makes it a fucking flawless film. I hated that they were trying to cure the villains. I didn't need that at all. I didn't need it. I didn't need to see them. It should just be like give me more Peter Parker's trying to stop their villains. That's all I need. Don't give me, oh, we have to cure these villains, because you want to know something? I didn't buy it. Peter Parker, he may be young, and they keep referring to that. Stephen Strange keeps saying that over and over again. I keep forgetting you're a dumb young kid, or something like that.
Yeah, he's young, he's idealistic, and
Right.
he hasn't been jaded to the point where he would happily give up on trying to reason with,
but he knows
with
what's
somebody.
at stake. So here's the thing. He is now, unlike his spider brethren, he has fought an intergalactic war where where half of the universe was at stake. He knows all about the bigger picture. And this is, they take it to another level with this isn't just one universe. This is the multiverse. That there's no way that Peter Parker, doesn't see things from Strange's side, especially after what happened, especially after the sacrifices that Tony Stark made in order for them to all live. Tony had to die for everybody to live.
Yeah, but Tony Stark sacrificed his own life. It certainly gets and feels much more messy when you have to look 5 people in the eye and say, sorry, you got to die for their universe to save.
Yeah, but no. But this was they were fated. This was their karma, and this was their fate. That this stuff had happened already. It just didn't work for me. You know what would have been far more interesting if maybe you had just Dr. Octopus cure himself, because he has that redemptive arc at the end of Spider-Man 2, which also I think is the one blemish on Spider-Man 2. I never was down with his change of, he has this turn on a dime change of heart at the end of Spider-Man 2 that I always kind of rolled my eyes at, even though I thought Spider-Man 2 was nigh flawless. I thought it was just absolutely flawless except for that one little part. But why not have Doc Ock have that same sort of mindset, and then be the scientist that he is and cure his fellow brethren so that they go back to their universes? It just felt weird and ham-fisted and unnecessary that it's Peter Parker doing this when he knows what's at stake. Because, Doc Ock is not thinking about those kinds of stakes. That, those Spider-Mans, their worlds were very small. They don't come from worlds where there's Avengers and Thanos's. They come from, and especially Tobey Maguire, he's got this citywide world, meaning that his world is literally New York City, and that's it. And you know what else was interesting too? I thought that we were going to get, because, obviously J.K. Simmons was the original Jonah Jameson in the first Raimi trilogy, and then he came back. I thought there would be some sort of acknowledgement that he was something about how he's the same in both universes. It doesn't matter.
They never. I guess they couldn't fit it in.
Or they
with the
cut
movie.
it. Maybe they cut it for time.
Yeah.
But I just find it weird. It feels like such like an omission of something that's so obvious. But yeah,
I mean,
there's
because I wouldn't be surprised if that scene where like all three of them are comparing notes, about what,
Right.
about the, about the constants in their personal journeys.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if they just cut it for time.
You're probably right. That's probably what happened. And I want to see the extended version of this film if it comes out. I don't know if they're going to have an extended one, but I just
there is an extended version of Far From Home. If you remember.
is there really? I did not know that.
Did you know that like during its theatrical run, you remember like there was this sequence that was teased in the trailer where the Iron Spider breaks up a police, breaks up an armed robbery in like a club or something, and the cops ask him, "Hey, you're gonna be the new Iron Man?" And he says, "No, I'm too busy doing your job." That was part of a whole sequence of events.
I didn't realize that.
That was cut out from the beginning of that movie.
I did not realize that.
But they actually put that version of the film in theaters towards the end of its theatrical run. So I can confirm that there is an extended cut of.
So hopefully
Hopefully
we'll have an extended cut of No Way Home with even more stuff jam packed in it. And even like another thing that was weird. These are nitpicks. I give it 5 stars out of 5 stars. I do. I really do. Even with those flaws. But another thing that was weird was the characterization of the villains. They were not the same as they were in their respective movies. They were all kind of different. And, I don't know. There were like little dialogue things that kind of got to me a little bit. Like, again, I kept like telling myself, Jeff, shut the fuck up. Like, they brought back Alfred Molina. Like, you can't complain. You literally can't complain about anything because it's just... There's just so much great stuff. Like I said, the only thing that I would have either cut or tweaked around a little bit would have been the whole needing to cure villains and, Aunt May being like, oh, everybody's good inside. And, like you never really see much of her in like her background that she like works in this soup kitchen type place. It just felt like it was a little, forced.
Yeah, her philanthropy is definitely like I don't want to say it's shoehorned in, but this is the first time that we actually see what she does.
And we never needed it in the previous 2 films. And I will say one last thing I will say about all this is you definitely get a sense of there's a diminishing return of the John Hughes factor. What makes the Homecoming trilogy so brilliant is the beautiful fusion of John Holmes' teenage angst with Spider-Man superhero antics. And we get the perfect amount of that, the perfect like blending of that in Homecoming, which to me is, I don't think that film has a bad bone in its body. I think it's a flawless film. It's perfect. Like, it's a perfect movie. And then Far From Home, you get a little bit less. You still have it, but it's a little bit less. And then this one, it's, again, the MIT thing is probably the most we get of that. And it feels almost kind of like, what happens is when you get all the villains and the Spider-Men, everything else that they're trying to spin in the plot sort of goes by the wayside because all you care about is this. And that's why. So why have it,
I mean, some of it was like, I guess some of it was just for a little comic relief to like, show how this has upended Peter's life to the point where he can't even go to school without his teachers rolling out the red carpet for him. That he's got his, his douchebag rival Flash Thompson pretending to be his best friend.
Oh, so great! That
Betty
was awesome.
Brant, making a whole, dedicating the school news team to covering Peter Parker's first day back at school like she's a 2-bit tabloid reporter. That stuff was funny. And it certainly does serve to set up Peter's, frustration. I think what would have made his desperation to come to Doctor Strange a little better, and this is going to tie into one of my gripes about the movie, which is that you had 5 villains who were mainstays on the Sinister Six, and you couldn't get a 6th. And because this is what I would have wanted to have seen.
That's Venom.
That forget Venom for a moment.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the first Spider-Man movie, Homecoming, you know, we see that Peter has made himself some enemies by busting up this, Vulture's crime ring.
Right.
You could have either brought back Michael Keaton, or you could have brought in Michael Mando, who I think was supposed to be the who I think was supposed to be teased at being the Scorpion somewhere down the line, as sort of a villain from this world, and complete that and give us the Sinister Six. And you could have done that by literally having him make some sort of attempt on Peter Parker's life, because now everybody knows who Spider-Man is, and there are a lot of people who would love to take a shot at Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like I feel like those are two gripes with the movie.
I think as time goes on, I'll have more. My gripes will feel more justified. It's like right now, and I think they knew that. Like they knew that when they were making this movie. Like nobody can complain about this movie because we literally did the coolest thing ever. Like you can't complain because they did the coolest thing ever, and it sets a precedent for superhero movies going forward. In terms of, this is what we started to talk about before. It sets a precedent in that now we can go back and refer to previous incarnations, of heroes, or that, like, we don't have to be like, who really comes to mind? I think about like the X-Men. Like I think about like the MCU, and I think about this film, and I think about like whatever the MCU does with the X-Men, because they're going to rebuild the X-Men. They're going to rebuild Fantastic Four. And I just like forget about the Avengers. We've had enough of the Avengers. Now bring in these other two Holy Trinity, in the Holy Trinity that makes up the Marvel Universe. You have the Avengers, you have the X-Men, and you have the Fantastic Four, right? Like those are the three branches. Like,
and now that Disney owns Fox, they can bring back the X-Men and Fantastic Four.
So give the Avengers a rest. You can even give Spider-Man a little bit of a rest for a few moments, and start give us a breakout X-Men film that really, give us a new Wolverine. Everybody's going to want to see Wolverine, so it's like you got to put Wolverine at the center of things, and I don't know, maybe make them extra young. I don't know,
but keep Deadpool.
Yeah, well, Deadpool has to be Ryan Reynolds, and he's the only guy. Deadpool is so self-aware that he even knows that he's in a comic book. So, that's part of his powers, his awareness powers. Deadpool 2 was just so great. It was really, really something else.
Yeah.
I like the Negasonic Teenage Warhead too.
Yeah, keep Deadpool, awesome. Keep his supporting cast, but give us new X-Men, give us new mainline X-Men. Sure.
Just recast everybody and just start over. And same thing with, I did a whole video about who I would cast for the Fantastic Four and had some pretty radical ideas.
I'll walk you through it again, man.
Off the top of my head, Sterling Brown from This Is Us, black guy who plays Randall.
I love him.
Make him Mr. Fantastic, straight up. Right? Every time I watch, I used to watch This Is Us with my wife, and I'd always watch Randall, and I was like, God, that's the black Mr. Fantastic right there. Like, just make him Mr. Fantastic. He's great.
He's great. It would definitely be a much longer role than, what he had in Black Panther.
Right. Oh, that's right. He is in Black Panther, but
he was Killmonger's father, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, you could recast. I mean, that's okay. That's we've had that sort of. I mean, look at Chris Evans, right? So,
Chris Evans. Yeah.
But I would have. Oh God, who else did I have? Oh, Adam Sandler as the Thing. Crazy, I know, but like, I could totally see Adam Sandler be like. I had like Adam Sandler's The Thing. I had So if it was the '90s, this is a little fan casting. Barbara Crampton as Sue Storm. If it was the '90s, who did I have in the? Oh, from Game of Thrones, Cersei as Sue Storm. Um, Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad as Doctor Doom. That was my Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the exact list. They did a whole hour-long video about casting Fantastic Four, but I just I'm like, I'm ready for that to sort of come out now. I'm very happy with the Spider-Man trilogy overall. Yes, I'm heartbroken. First of all, I love MJ in this Homecoming trilogy. I think she is.
Zendaya was amazing.
Yeah, is that how you pronounce it? Zendaya.
Zendaya or Zendaya, I'm not sure.
She is.
If I have it wrong, I apologize.
She is something else, man. She's great. She's so great. She's so funny and quirky and awesome. And she's so different from every sort of Mary Jane that we've seen, both animated and live action otherwise.
Yeah.
So it's like, it was really cool to see them go in a completely different direction. And, but it made me sad that they didn't end up together because they're just such a great couple. Although they're a couple in real life, I guess, right?
They are a couple together in real life, but
that's wonderful.
No, I kind of agree that it should, I think it should have ended with the button being pushed to send them all back, as opposed to, having Strange cast a spell. Because I kind of feel like, because I kind of feel like the one thing that I'm not sure how I felt about was to have Peter Parker literally lose everything at the end.
Yeah.
That he would have, no.
He literally loses. He loses everything. He literally loses everything except for one thing. What did he not lose? He
didn't lose Spider-Man.
Right. Spider-Man is the only thing that he doesn't lose. He keeps Spider-Man. What's up, Ballad of the Broken? We got David Lee Rath in the audience as well. Ballad just left the theater. Dude, Ballad, we were just talking about it. I choked up when Andrew Garfield saves MJ. I absolutely was verklempt. By the way, there's the meme of of three Spider-Men all pointing to each other, and they do that in the fucking movie. You see them all like talking at the Statue of Liberty, pointing at each other. By the way, the Statue of Liberty has the Captain America shield, which is really great.
I hated that. I understand. Touch. I understand what they were thinking in terms of in the universe, but like, I was glad to see that shield get destroyed.
Yeah, but that's the point. Like, they acknowledge in movie how ridiculous it is by destroying the shield. Like,
yeah,
and then the other thing too is like the whole like the whole again, just to go back to this last point, because it made me think of the end when Tobey Maguire saves Green Goblin from being killed. That was his kind of like redemption. Like, they each had a redemption, and
yeah.
I don't know if it's something that he needed redemption for, but it was like he got to fix. Yeah, no, it kind of was.
Well,
because
that's what I was saying earlier. That it's like, Norman Osborn may not have been the greatest human being, but he certainly did not, he certainly, had he not tested that formula on himself, he would not have gone on those rampages that he went on as Green Goblin. He would not have, killed his entire board of directors and terrorized so many people.
Right, but that's not what I'm referring to. I'm referring to the fact that Tobey Maguire, in a way, like, almost blamed himself, or feels, it's been a while since I've seen the first Spider-Man film.
No, he feels guilty that he could not have stopped Green Goblin without killing him, because
right, doesn't he do a flip? Doesn't he does a flip that causes the glider to ram into.
Like, if you remember the Gwen, after the death of Gwen Stacy, he confronts the Goblin again. That's in the comics. They actually recreated the first death of Norman Osborn in Spider-Man. Like,
right,
that,
and then James Franco goes, "You killed my dad."
Yeah, like James. Yeah, like the whole thing is, it puts a huge strain on his friendship with Harry.
Right. And
And
so yes. Yeah, sorry, go
so
ahead.
it's like, it cost Peter so much not being able to save Norman Osborn and not being able to help him, because it cost him his friendship, and it also hurt his relationship with Mary Jane down the road in Spider-Man 3.
So
You know,
that is what I mean when I say that that's his redemption arc, because Tom Holland goes to kill him with the Goblin glider, the same, because the Goblin basically killed Aunt May in the same kind of way, and
yeah,
then it's Tobey Maguire who stops it. So both Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire atone for things that they feel guilty about, or like set the wrong thing right, and they're both these great moments of
yeah.
catharsis. And it goes to show you that if you could have a great moment of catharsis, if you have these big like redemptive arcs or whatever, that you can have dumb shit in your movie and it's no one's gonna care. Like
Yeah,
that it's dumb.
and to add to that moment, because I just want to point out here,
Yeah.
it's not Tobey Maguire who administers the cure to Norman Osborn. It's Tom Holland.
Right.
Um,
Right.
like Tobey Maguire tosses it to Tom Holland, as sort of this silent plea, like, no, don't kill him, please do this. And it's also just as cathartic
Right.
to see Tom Holland in the end do the right thing, not sink down to the Goblin's level.
Yeah, Ballad says here, I also really love the way they handled the great power comes great responsibility quote.
Yeah.
And we were talking about this earlier. The Ballad, this is the core, and they really just go to the core. They do it in the whole trilogy, but Peter Parker wants whatever Peter Parker wants is the opposite of what Spider-Man wants. And Peter Parker is always left with the choice to pick what Peter Parker wants or to pick what Spider-Man wants. And he will always pick what Spider-Man wants because he's a hero and he has no choice. And that is what is aligned with what you're saying right here about with great power comes great responsibility. I don't know. We just got an alarm that went off from Dyer. I don't know if that's what that.
That was at my home. My sister just walked in from the outside.
No. I'm talking about on. Sorry, I got an alert. I set up these Streamlab alerts on my streaming
Okay, all right.
software, and I just got that alert. So thank you, Dyer, for whatever that was. I still haven't figured it out. I don't know what's happening when that happens. I think it's a subscription when people subscribe. I get that
Well, if
alert.
that's the case, thank you.
Yes, thank you. I'm not sure. But yeah, so that's, I mean, I honestly, I don't know where they're going to go for the next 4, 5, 6 movies. Well, we do. We know the symbiote's going to come into play. Venom's going to come into play, and they're going to get a chance to sort of redo that, and we'll see what happens there. I would like to see, frankly, I wouldn't mind seeing, again, put the Avengers toys down, like leave them down where they are for now. Let's see Spider-Man make some cameo appearances in the Fantastic Four movie and X-Men stuff. Like, you could just weave them in wherever, have them pop up.
Sony, please say yes.
Well, I don't think we know that he's going to be back for another trilogy. As for other films, who knows? But
All right. Well, the thing is because remember, there was a shared agreement, because remember, Sony holds the film rights to Spider-Man.
right,
They have always had the right of first refusal for
Right.
anything Marvel Studios proper ever pitched to them.
right,
So, obviously there had to be. So when Tom Holland happened, there was a lot of back and forth about what Spider-Man could look like in the MCU and what they wanted to make happen, and both studios had to agree to everything about Tom Holland's Spider-Man. It wasn't just Kevin Feige getting a blanket green light to do whatever he wanted with the character.
right.
So, so obviously if Spider-Man is going to make any kind of cameos on film, they might need Sony say so, even if it's not Tom Holland showing his face,
Right.
or just to have him slinging, web swinging by. So there are some logistics that need to be worked
They'll
out.
figure it out. Ballad, to answer your question, we did talk about the ending. And we both like the ending. I like the ending too. What we said was, if you go back to the beginning of the broadcast, in a nutshell, without rehashing it, the ending actually comes from a comic book storyline that we both did not like. However,
One More Day.
Right. It's called The One More Day.
This movie handled that idea
much better. And so I was accepting, and because I already knew what it was, I wasn't so annoyed by it. It makes sense. And again, ultimately, they're stripping Peter Parker down to a place where he literally has nothing except for Spider-Man. And the thing that he chose Spider-Man over everything else, essentially. And he didn't really have a choice because the world would have been destroyed. He had to suggest, and we get Stephen Strange going, well, no, I don't want to do that to you. He's like, you don't have a choice, man. The fabric of existence is ripping open because all these people, and I guess you can kind of see the Rhino shadow at one point, the Paul Giamatti, the Rhino,
I think you're right.
It was really, really fun, by the way. What a fun little cameo that he did at the end of Spider-Man 2, or was the end of Spider-Man 1, Amazing Spider-Man
It was Amazing Spider-Man 2. He had a bit part at the beginning of that movie, and then in the final moments he emerges as the Rhino.
Right, he has a new... Was he the Rhino at the beginning of the movie or only at the end?
No, he wasn't. He was a two-bit... He was portrayed as an ordinary two-bit criminal.
Right.
But in the final scene of the movie, he reemerges as the Rhino, and it's not
Rhino's much fun.
It's not really made clear how he got there. He was just a bookend character.
God, Spider-Man has the best rogues. He just has such a great rogues gallery.
Yeah.
Just the way that Batman has his. I think I'm trying to think. Do you have any final thoughts? I feel pretty good about.
My final thoughts is if we never get another Tom Holland appearance, I think this is a great place to end.
I'm okay with that.
It's not the happiest place, but it's a great way to leave off.
Mm-hmm. You get the feeling that maybe things aren't one big plot hole, and then we'll answer your question, Ballad. One big plot hole is he could have just taken his cell phone with MJ and then just recorded a video of MJ talking to herself going, Peter Parker is your boyfriend is Spider-Man, you're about to forget everything, just watch this video and it will all make sense. Huge glaring plot hole to me. Huge glaring plot hole.
It was, they didn't think of anything like that. Even then, I think it still would have been. I think he still would have ultimately not shown her that video, because how do you just show that to somebody?
Right. But I'm just saying that would have been a great starting place for, hey, you lost your memory. Watch this video of yourself vouching for everything that I'm saying. So, Nate, let me ask you, where do you rank all of the Spider-Man movies?
Okay. At the lowest of the totem pole goes Spider-Man 3, purely because of how they handled Venom. Venom is my favorite villain in the entire Marvel universe, and they did him so dirty.
Yeah.
They did the symbiote arc on Peter Parker so dirty.
They did.
That
and we know why that was too, but yes,
because
they did.
Yeah. And regardless of whatever was happening behind the scenes, it was done badly. And it will always be on the lower end of the totem pole.
Huge letdown. And you know what's funny? I remember gearing up for that film and thinking, there's no way this is going to be a bad movie. This is going to be the best one ever, because look what they're doing. And God, what a simple time it was with those comic book movies. And yet at the same time, we were like, holy crap, we finally have Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So weird to think.
But Venom is a very nuanced character, and they did him poorly. After
Yeah.
that, the next lowest is Amazing Spider-Man 2, and I say that because a movie has to be the sum of its parts. And even though the romance between Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker and Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy was great, the rest of the movie needed a lot more polish before it should have been shot.
I don't remember
in terms of the script.
Remember it.
It was the plot was just it was.
I just
it was
remember
very
loving their
lackluster.
relationship. Their relationship was awesome.
Yeah. So like I said at the beginning of this, Andrew Garfield had bad scripts, and this is why you don't remember anything else but their relationship because everything else just wasn't memorable.
Right.
And had that whole movie been memorable, I would have ranked it much higher.
Okay.
After that, you definitely have the first Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire, and I place it on the lower end of my list because Tobey Maguire is a great actor, but he had the worst frame of reference for Spider-Man because Sam Raimi gave him the first 40 issues of the Amazing Spider-Man comic, and they're not bad, but so much about Spider-Man has evolved in the decades since then that it's not really a good frame of reference for a modern-day based Spider-Man movie.
Right.
So I like again, this is not a dig at Tobey Maguire. It's because of the creative choices Sam Raimi made. I don't think it's a terrible movie either, but I do think it could have been better had Tobey Maguire been given a more modern frame of reference.
Okay.
After that, Spider-Man 2. We're getting into what I feel are the more enjoyable movies. Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire, Alfred Molina duking it out.
Oh, it was
all over New York City. Everything leading up to that.
When that came out, we were senior, or I was a senior in high school. I think you'd already graduated.
I had graduated. I was mesmerized by that movie.
Oh my God! It was just it was phenomenal film.
Yeah, it ticked all the boxes of what a great action hero movie should be.
Haven't revisited them in a long time. Have to do that.
After that, you have The Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay.
The first Andrew Garfield movie. I felt that was a better movie than Amazing Spider-Man 2 in terms of just how it worked as a movie. But
the Lizard kind of bummed me out. Like the villains that they used were such a bummer.
Yeah, the Lizard was kind of a meh villain, but I liked that they were using the Ultimate Spider-Man lore as its frame of reference.
Right.
That yes, I really liked.
Yes.
Again, I liked it better because I just feel like it's a much more cohesive story.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Which brings me to Spider-Man Far From Home. That's my number 3 movie.
Wow, you have these really ranked. Holy crap.
Yeah. I'm going off the top of my head here, but Spider-Man Far From Home is my number 3. It's because it has to follow Avengers Endgame. And anybody watching this movie has to have at least seen Avengers Endgame. So it's a great movie. It's a great ride. Jake Gyllenhaal as Quentin Beck is the ultimate con man, both as Mysterio and just both as himself.
Yeah, for sure.
And I loved that we got conned even more with the Skrulls. Setting up Secret Invasion somewhere down the line.
Yeah, but the teenage, I will say, all the teenage stuff, like it felt like John Hughes goes on a European
it was very much a John Hughes
great.
movie with Spider-Man. It ticks all the boxes, but it gets the number 3 slot because I feel like you need to know a lot of lore about MCU in order for it to really be accessible.
I get it.
Number 2 is Spider-Man Homecoming.
Ooh.
Because it's a much simpler movie. It's very
simple.
It's very simple. It's very easy to just jump on and follow it. It shows you enough about Civil War, and it gives you enough about Peter Parker's quirkiness to really, to get adjusted to the character as the movie goes. So, and not to mention Michael Keaton as Vulture.
So good.
Playing
That
him
car
like a
scene.
that car scene. He's basically like Tony Soprano
Yeah.
with a Vulture thing, and he's great.
Trading alien tech from the New York War. The Avengers
and
movie.
doing it for like a really, for just the reason of, well, I got to put food on my family's table somehow. And finally, the number one movie, and this isn't just because I saw it yesterday, but I really feel like if I have to revisit it again, but yes, Spider-Man No Way Home definitely is my number one on this on the list of live-action Spider-Man movies. And you know what? Just for good measure, Into the Spider-Verse would probably would probably also get the tie here. But that's an animated movie, so I don't know if I should put it on the list.
You can if you want.
Yeah, so my number one is tied with both those movies because they are just pure celebrations of all things Spider-Man.
I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna go down instead of up though. My number one's actually gonna be Spider-Man Homecoming.
Okay.
Because it's very small. I'm not going to do the whole explanation thing that you did for every single one of them because we want to wrap this up because I'm exhausted. But
sorry.
No, it's okay. I really loved hearing I think you very succinct, and I liked hearing all of your explanation. Spider-Man Homecoming, it's just flawless. A plus, like just A plus. So good. Then I would put Spider-Man No
Way Home.
No Way Home. Sorry, I had a brain fart there. Yeah, No Way Home would probably be maybe at either number 2 or maybe even tied for number 1. I'm gonna have to rewatch the trilogy as like a cohesive whole and see how it fits together, because I feel like I'm blinded by all the awesome bits that like maybe I would be like. I still don't know how I feel about them trying to cure the villains. It just seems like a glaring error to me. After that, probably gonna put Spider-Man Far From Home maybe as number 3. I just think that they really got Spider-Man right, all things considered. Andrew Garfield is the perfect Peter Parker, but those movies are very flawed, and I was very easily able to overlook those films because of that. And then the rest of them, I don't know where I'd put. I guess it would go Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 1 with Tobey Maguire. Then, I don't know, maybe Amazing Spider-Man 2, then Amazing Spider-Man 1, then Spider-Man 3. I don't know. I really can't. It's really hard for me to sort of put everything in an order. I kind of like them all. I kind of have enjoyed them all for different reasons in different ways. I guess No Way Home is the best one because it ultimately has to take the number 1 spot because it's essentially a sequel to every single one that came before it. No Way Home is a sequel to Spider-Man 1, 2, 3, Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2, and Spider-Man Homecoming and Spider-Man Far From Home. It's a sequel to all of those films. And not only that, it's a conclusive sequel. And it lands the ending just in the way that Endgame landed the ending for 22 Marvel movies. So, when all things are said and done, No Way Home is the best one. Shit. It is.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Ballad says, "I'm just shocked they handled it so well. It could have been all over the place and packed too much content in one, but they still maintain a coherent narrative riddled with emotion. They did, Ballad. The only thing I just
Eric
couldn't
Summers
stand...
and Chris McKenna deserve all the praise for being able to handle all the plot elements they took on.
And the scenes that they wrote between the Peter Parkers, like, they deserve Oscars for those scenes. Like, they're just so pitch perfect. They didn't go on too long. They found these moments to inject so much wonderful humor, as they did through. I think they wrote the other two, right? Didn't they write everything?
I believe they wrote. Well, I don't quote me on this, but I believe that they were the mainstays through all three. Other people did get writing credits for the first two, but they got the sole credits on this one.
Gotcha. I'd just like to say first of all, I'd like to thank Natedog for jumping on here, and
I'd
it's
like
so
to thank
good.
you for having me.
Oh, my pleasure.
I really, really needed to talk about this with somebody.
Natedog, I'm so glad that you wanted to talk about it, and we still have to do the Invincibles and some other stuff.
Yes,
So we'll get to that.
I admit that I manipulated you into seeing this movie, but I'm glad that you were able to watch it safely.
Oh yeah, I was able to watch it. COVID is spreading again all over the place. I was able to safely watch in the theater. Now I have to figure out Nightmare Alley. I have to see Nightmare Alley as well because I love the original so much, and I just cannot resist Guillermo del Toro and fucking Nightmare Alley. Good to see a Ballad. Ballad's a regular here. He's a YouTube. He's one of the mods too in the live chat.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Ballad. Hopefully, I'll be back soon.
We are powered by riotstickers.com. They are our official sponsor of the Frumess channel. I just want to let you know that you can get the best sticker deal of the century for $29.50. That's 50% off. You can get 50 3x3 vinyl stickers at riotstickers.com with the 50% off code Frumess. Go down in the description, click on the link, check it out. If you or your band or whatever it is your project, if you're a filmmaker, if you're a writer, whatever you may be, you might need stickers to spread away. Maybe you want to get some Spider-Man stickers. You just want to promote and proselytize and pass along the message of Spider-Man. Well, you can do that with Riot Stickers from riotstickers.com. I know Josh. We just had him on the show. Josh runs riotstickers.com. I've ordered stickers from riotstickers.com in the past, and I personally vouch for them. I know friends of mine who also order Riot stickers, and I'll tell you, there are leading competitors out there. Allegedly, their stickers don't stick too well. So riotstickers.com, Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Natedog, hold on real quick. We're just going to play the video and wrap this up.
Posters and promo cards, there's nothing we can't print for you. From stage backdrops to bass drum heads, we can print on shirts, we can print on hats, we can print on pants. Cheap prices and high quality, quick turnaround times and free shipping. We also offer free artwork support, great customer service, and so much more. We are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb. Riotstickers.com. Riot Stickers, we are the bomb.
All right, we have a wonderful way of saying goodbye on the channel.
That had a very 90s aesthetic to it.
It did. It was written by the guy from Less Than Jake too, which I find super awesome.
That's awesome.
This is your friendly neighborhood web slingers at the Frumess channel are saying goodnight to you. Thwip, we say thwip.
I hope we've been very good emotional support friends for the people who have seen this movie.
Yes. Well, instead of saying we usually say peace and hair grease on this channel. We're going to say peace and thwip grease, and we're going to close out. Grease. We're going to close out with the Patreon. We're going to close out the Patreon. Natedog, hang out one more second.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jeff. So I've decided to make a Patreon. What is Patreon? I don't know how to define a Patreon. Let me look it up. Patreon is a membership platform that makes it very easy for creators to get paid for the things that they're already creating. I want to do it full time. I want this to be my full-time job. In my efforts to make that happen, I've set up this platform. Is it going to work? Is it going to be successful? I don't know, but I would rather try and crash and burn than not try at all. The goal is to create enough passive revenue so that I can continue to do this full-time, uninterrupted. Why? Because I love to do this. I love creating content. I love making videos. I love shooting films. I love doing podcasts. In case you couldn't tell, I love to talk and I never shut the fuck up. So right now I've kept the Patreon incredibly simple. There's 2 tiers, and that may change in the future. The Murdergram is a simple way to extend support for all of the hours and hours of free content on the channel for nothing more than $1. 38 cents goes to Patreon. What's $1.38, eh? It's less than a cup of coffee, but it's a great way that you can show support for very little effort. When you divide that $1.38 by the hours and hours and hours of time spent listening to this endless drivel of content, the dollar cost average works out. Next up is the YouTube Casualty for $6.66. The YouTube Casualty is loaded to the gills. Enjoy the archive ad-free, as well as ad-free early access to special docu-style podcast videos, music reaction commentaries, and the like, a month before they drop on YouTube, loaded with ads, I might add. You're also going to get exclusive content and behind-the-scenes content that is not available on YouTube or anywhere else. So you get to peek behind the veil. And believe me, there's a couple of choice pieces. Most of all, more than anything, whether you join the Patreon or not, I just want to thank each and every one of you that comes to the channel, that watches all the shows, that leaves comments, that participates, that subscribes. That's really the most important thing. This is just trying to find a way to earn a living as an artist. And with that, thank you for my TED Talk. Join the Patreon, because we need you!
66 cents.